there was no thought or any care whatsoever put into the schedule this year. And do you want to know the prime example of that? Week 11, boys and girls. Week 11. Welcome everybody to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jaguar Gator 9, representing the 904 from the 602, and today we are talking about the NFL schedule, the good, bad, and the ugly. We've got tons of content on the schedule, my thoughts on everything coming out over the next 4 days on this channel, so be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a moment of the action when we do post, because we got a lot of content coming up, I can tell you that much. Lots of content on this channel, because there's a lot to dissect about the schedule, because there's a lot that I really don't like and don't think the NFL knew what they were doing. And the big one for me is Week 11. When people look at the schedule, one of the first things they look at is they look at the primetime slate and say, okay, which games have a chance of being flexed out? Which games might not last? Colts Jets, if you look on paper, on Sunday Night Football, Week 11, seems like the best bet to get flexed out. That has the potential, on paper at least, to be an ugly matchup. Neither team made the playoffs last year. Both these teams have massive question marks. Indianapolis Colts, how will Anthony Richardson play? Can he even stay healthy? He did not stay healthy last season for any of the games, and obviously we don't know a whole lot about Richardson because he didn't play last year a whole lot after going down early in the year. Gardner Minshew was the quarterback, and now he is in Vegas. As for the New York Jets, they were below 500 last year. Rodgers, can he return to form? Because he wasn't that good. I don't want to say that good, but obviously a downgrade in 2022 versus 21 in 2020. Can he avoid getting hurt? Are the Jets going to be legit again? They have not made the playoffs since 2010, so you're banking on them a lot. On top of that, the Jets are on national TV so often to start the year off, 7 times in their first 11 games, whether it be Monday night, Sunday night, or the London game, or any other primetime games. The Colts don't have a huge national fan base, so that game, if it's ugly, could easily be a flex option if you don't want overexposure of the Jets if they're not a good team. So the problem is that even if they want to flex that game out, they can't. They basically can't. They basically screw themselves over. Barring something unforeseen, that game will not be able to be flexed. And you know why? Because the NFL put no thought and care into this schedule whatsoever. They just put it in a computer and they were like, okay, this works. They didn't take a look at it. Because if they did, they'd realize that Week 11 is a massive problem because their riskiest game on Sunday Night Football, there is basically no out whatsoever, and NBC might be really, really ticked off looking at the schedule thinking, oh, crap, we might be screwed if Colts Jets does not work out the way we think it will. Because let's look at the schedule. A lot of games on paper look really, really good on that schedule. You think, okay, one of these games could easily get flexed into Sunday Night Football if Colts Jets is not that good. How it works with the TV networks is that CBS gets to protect one game and Fox gets to protect one game. So NBC can't just pluck the best game that CBS has or the best game that Fox has. They can pluck the second best game if they deem it to be better than their current Sunday night game. So let's go through the CBS schedule. They get to protect one game. Obviously, that's Chiefs-Bills. I don't think there's any surprises there. That might be the marquee game that CBS has all year. The Kansas City Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champion, 2-time defending champions, Buffalo Bills, huge rivalry game, Mahomes against Allen. They played in the playoffs last year, a great game. The 13 seconds game, a lot of lore over the last few years. Remember a few years ago in the regular season when Chiefs-Bills was the only game to take place in that late 425 window? There was nothing else. It was shown across the entire country. It was essentially a nationally televised game. That's how important that game is to CBS. That's how important that game is to the NFL. That game will stay on CBS. So obviously NBC's not getting that one. But you figure, okay, look at the other games they have. Jaguars, Lions, 2 teams with winning records. That's unprotected. They could possibly take that. The Jaguars, I know they collapsed at the end of last year. I don't really want to talk about that. But they did finish 9-8, and the Lions had a winning record the previous year. They made it to the playoffs, made it to the NFC Championship. They're America's darlings. So you could flex that game in. All right, no problem there. You could flex that game in over Colts Jets if you need to. The problem is that you can't. You can't do that. You want to know why? Because the Lions were on Sunday Night Football the previous week, because in Week 10, the Lions took on the Texans on Sunday Night Football. And you're not seeing the same team play on Sunday night in back-to-back weeks unless it's the end of the season. It just doesn't happen. Teams don't play Sunday night back-to-back weeks in the middle of November. So by default, because of how that works, they're not going to flex that game into NBC in Sunday Night Football unless you want the Lions on Sunday night back-to-back weeks, which, again, They don't do that. But okay, that game is unprotected, but it'll be protected basically by the rules of the schedule. What about Ravens-Steelers, though? Ravens-Steelers will be unprotected by CBS. Both teams have winning records. Huge rivalry, maybe the best rivalry in the NFL as of this moment. Those are always great games, always tightly contested games. That could get moved into Sunday night. Well, no, it can't. You want to know why? Because the Steelers play on Thursday Night Football 3 days later against the Cleveland Browns. Or 4 days later, I should say. But really 3 days if the game ends early Monday morning. So the turnaround time is not good for player safety. You're telling me the Steelers would have to leave the facility early Monday morning and then have to play a game 3 days later? That'd be insane. That would compromise player safety. They don't do that. You don't see teams playing Sunday night and Thursday night, and there's a reason for that. Because it's very, very unsafe to do that. The turnaround time is absolutely crazy and way too short, and especially because the players have to be back at the facility on Monday, and because the players basically don't get time off when they play Thursday Night Football, they can't do that. They can't do that. So CBS, even though they get one protection with Chiefs-Bills, they essentially get three because Jaguars-Lions will have to be protected, as will Ravens-Steelers, just on the way the schedule works. So you kind of screw yourself over there. But what about Fox? It doesn't have to be a CBS game you're flexing in. What about Fox? Fox gets one protection, probably Packers-Bears. Actually, I'm pretty confident it is going to be Packers-Bears. Big rivalry game. Packers, great team last year, made the playoffs divisional round. One of the best rivalries in football, maybe the most historic rivalry in football. Bears, big media market, expected to be pretty good this year. So Packers-Bears will get protected. That'll be Burkhardt and Brady on the call. That's your marquee 1 o'clock game on Fox. They have the single header, and that's going to be the game shown in 50 or 60% of the country. But you do have Browns-Saints as well. Browns-Saints is unprotected. Both those teams had winning records last year. Browns made the playoffs. You could move that game in to the Sunday night slot if Colts-Jets turns out to be a stinker. Well, the problem is that you can't. You want to know why you can't? Because guess who the Steelers are playing on Thursday Night Football that week in a few days? The Cleveland Browns. You're going to have the Browns fly out of New Orleans and land at 4 a.m. and then play a football game essentially 3 days later when they have to be back at the facility 3 hours after? That would be insane. That would be absolutely insane. You're not doing that because of player safety issues. So Browns Saints, by the virtue of the schedule or how it lined up, will be protected, even though Fox doesn't have to issue a protection. And then Rams Patriots is unprotected. I don't think the Pats are going to be any good this year, but I should also note that that game can't get flexed in because the Rams play on Sunday Night Football the following week against the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think that game is getting flexed out. And again, you're not seeing the same team play Sunday night in back-to-back weeks unless it's the end of the season. And this is the middle of November. It would be unprecedented. So what should have been 2 protections turns into 6 because of how the schedule played itself out. This is the worst Sunday night game on paper, Colts-Jets, and they left themselves no outs because more than half the schedule in the afternoon is protected either by the network or because of the way the schedule plays out the week before or the week after. What that means is that there are only 4 games that are truly unprotected if Colts-Jets is truly a stinker. Those games are Raiders-Dolphins, 2 teams that, the Dolphins made the playoffs last year, the Raiders did not. You have Vikings-Titans, neither team had a winning record, neither team made the playoffs. Falcons-Broncos, neither team had a winning record, neither team made the playoffs. Seahawks-49ers, only 1 team there, the Niners made the playoffs. Seahawks, winning record, but a lot of question marks there, especially with the new coaching staff, and Geno Smith might be on the decline. That could potentially get moved in, but still, 2 protections turns into 6. More than half the Sunday slate is protected by virtue of the schedule, even though Colts-Jets is on paper the worst Sunday night game. Now, obviously, if that game is good, then this is a moot point, and we're not having this discussion. If the Colts enter the game with 6 wins and the Jets enter with 6 wins, if that game means something, all right, not a big deal, and we laugh about this and we move on. But that's the riskiest of the matchups. That is by far the riskiest of the matchups in terms of banking on its relevancy and whether it's going to be any good or not. In terms of the second half matchups that can get flexed out, that is by far the riskiest of the bunch, and they left themselves no outs. They left themselves absolutely no outs for the marquee time slot. NBC's got to be ticked off when they see that schedule and be like, wait a sec, even though all these games look good on paper, there's a lot of good afternoon games they can flex in. They won't be able to because of Thursday Night Football and because of how the Sunday Night Football slate worked the week before and the week after. We're screwed. we're screwed. If Colts just does not work out the way we think it will, if Anthony Richardson gets hurt and he's not that good, and the Colts are not that good this year, or Aaron Rodgers gets hurt again and the Jets are bad, like they've been for most of the last 14 some odd years, we're screwed. We're screwed. We're stuck with that game, and there's nothing we can do about it. I don't know why the NFL looked at the schedule and saw week 11 and was like, yep, that looks good. That looks good, because clearly it does not. The whole point of protections is to protect the networks with CBS and Fox, at the same time making sure that NBC can get a good Sunday night game if the game that they have is a stinker. It was not meant for this. It was not meant for more than half the schedule to get protected by the networks because of the way it works out. That's a blatant flaw in the system, and the NFL put no thought into this. The NFL put no thought into week 11 because nothing about this is adding up, and this could be very, very ugly. Even if the Colts have 3 wins and the Jets have 4 wins, even if it's not a good matchup like that, we might be stuck with it because I'm not sure there's anything else that NBC can do based on the way the schedule is lined up and based on how the teams are projected to be entering the year. Barring anything crazy, again, it's a year-to-year league. Look at the Texans, 2022, they were one of the worst teams in football. 2023, they were incredible, made the playoffs, won the division. It's a year-to-year league, but at least on paper, this is not good for NBC. It's not good for the NFL, and the Week 11 schedule is kind of a joke in that regard. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that Colts-Jets will stay on Sunday Night Football? If that game doesn't stay on Sunday night, what game do you think gets flexed into it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think the Colts are going to be good this year? The Jets are going to be any good? I want to hear it all down below. And that's going to do it for this episode of JJ9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, JaguarGator9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, this is JaguarGator9 signing off. And as always, go Jags.